still up there. I just had a hard time getting to eat.
What about some of your key lures that you're using today?
Without a doubt, for the week, the #1 thing that I threw was just a 1/8 ounce Strike King shaky head, jig head with a little 4-inch 3X finesse worm. It's made out of this real stretchy, super soft plastic that's buoyant. And the key part of it is that you drag that along the bottom and it falls down near the bottom, but when you stop it, because the worm floats, it stands straight up. So you can drop it into a bed or pull it out there in front of a fish, and when you stop it, the thing still has action. It's still moving, sitting in one place, and when the bass are spawning, that's a really good thing to have in a lure. So, you know, I probably caught 75% of all the bass I weighed in this week on that rig right there. I caught a few on a drop shot. Off beds. I caught a fish on a top water today. I caught one on a wacky rigged Ocho, which is a Strike King stick worm. I mean, I had to mix it up today. I caught a couple on a swim bait, but by far and away, that shaky head worm was my #1 bait.
How many fish did you catch today?
I probably caught 10 or 12 keepers, you know. I just had a hard time catching quality, you know. I caught a lot of 2-pounders today that I could use. They call it a dirt color. It's a laminate of green. It's pumpkin on one side and watermelon on the other, and it's just a real good color. You know, you want to pick a worm in a clear water lake like this that blends in with the bottom. That's what the forage does in nature. It's like a chameleon, and so you want to pick a color that's the same as close to the bottom. That worm is a real good one for me.
What were you throwing it on?
I was throwing it on a spinning rod, a Quantum 7-foot spinning rod, medium action rod, with a PT reel and an 8-pound test Bass Pro fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon's another, I think, big factor because it's just really invisible to the fish. They can't see it. And, you know, as spooky as they were, if I had to do it with mono, I think I'd have had a lot harder time.
Were there any kind of, was your equipment key at all? What kind of equipment?
The #1 thing was my sunglasses, without a doubt. You know, I mean, there's lots of quality sunglasses out there, but in my opinion, Oakley has the most different lens colors, and I believe they're the very best. I've tried them all, and it really helped me to see in the water. Hey, when I'm fishing sight fish, you want to pull out all the stops. You know, I was running my Biosonics trying to get these fish activated, and the smallmouth especially really seemed to get mad about it. A lot of times they'd come right over and run right over towards the boat, towards the speaker. This morning I kept the shad on that point for 15 minutes while I was there, and I finally caught a good fish off of it with that too. So I mean, it activates the shad and it activates the bass pretty well. I used a scent on all my stuff. Mustad makes a pheromone-based scent, and during the spawn, that's real critical to have. You know, pheromones are real important during the spawn. And that ultrabite, you know, I just soaked my tube, soaked my worm, soaked my drop shot, swim everything with that scent. Because when you finally do get one to bite it, you want them to eat the bait real well, and that's what that scent really does. And especially if you can keep it in the bed for a little while, it'll fire them up. So, I mean, I rarely had to spend 10 minutes on a bass. If it would stay on the bed, I could catch it, you know, in under 10 minutes.
You mentioned that on stage, Kevin, that you left some big fish, and I mean, that's really hard for people to do. How were you able to do that?
I am pretty good at knowing what I can catch and what I can't, and I don't have a lot of patience. So when I see one of those big females that's just not staying in one spot and just cruising around, it does not act at all interested in any lure that I throw. And believe me, I'm going to try it all. I'm going to throw a swim bait, you know, a jerk bait, a worm, a jig. I'm going to throw everything out in front of them to try to see if we can get a reaction. And if I get no reaction, I'm on to the next one. You're just wasting your time looking at them. You know, it's nice to think that you could catch them, but the only way you can catch those fish is with an electroshock boat.
Just what a little more special considering you did something that you're not necessarily that comfortable doing, or that you do that often.
I'm real comfortable doing it, but nobody, you know, most of the sight fishing tournaments that we have, you know, people say, oh, you're not a sight fisherman. Appreciate it, Dino, thank you. So, you know, I can do it. A lot of times I choose to fish other techniques, you know. But there's some tournaments that's just what you have to do. I mean, it was hard to catch a bass if you weren't looking at them this week.
You said you only caught 3 smallmouths in practice.
I didn't catch them. I found 3 that were.
Oh, okay. So
3 good ones.
Were you ever you know, you remain committed to going after those. Did you think?
Well,
did you think that
a lot of
maybe
the
you
areas
had guessed wrong?
No, a lot of the areas that I was finding these smallmouth, they had some largemouth too. Okay, so I mean, there's largemouth spawning on the main lake. Typically, they spawn later there, and we're just at the beginning of the spawn right now. But I caught a lot of largemouth, you know, too, that, you know, out there with them. But those smallmouths were just, when you'd find one, you know, they're almost all of them are 2 3/4 to 3.5 pounds. So that's a good average fish here, you know. You know, I think I weighed in 3 smallmouths a day every day. So that was the bulk of my catch, and you know, and they're close to a 3-pound average. So that's pretty good. But if you think about it, if you spend all day looking for them and you catch 3 that are, I mean, I'd catch 5 or 6 a day, but a couple of them would be smaller than that. But you can catch 3 like that. That's pretty good average.
Talk about the Angler of the Year. Is this kind of your focus now? I mean, you're halfway through. So.
Well, I can tell you, Angler of the Year is my focus from day one of the first event of the year. You know, when we went to Amistad, I knew that would be a pivotal event. You know, last year I didn't make a check there, and it was a tough tournament. And the thing that really bothered me about last season is I figured out what to do on the final day, and it was exactly what I'd done in previous times. I knew the pattern, I knew what to do, and I just didn't do it. So I was pretty disappointed when I left there. So it felt good to come back again this year and have a good tournament, because again, that lake and this lake are a lot alike. It's a lot like what I fish at home. It's real clear, and I love clear water. So you know, it was great to get a good start there. And you know, I mean, like I said, right from the get-go, you got to be thinking about it, because you look, you know, these guys are good. You got to make top 10s out here consistently to be in contention for it. And with this new format, it definitely puts a premium on performance, you know. And we've got 8 tournaments instead of 11 to get it done. So you got less chances to win and less chances to come back if you do get down. And with that format, you know, everybody's going to go back to pretty close to equal again for those final 2 events. So it's going to be a fun shootout, you know, and that's what you want to do. Is you want to have a good solid year and get in that top 12, and then that's when you need to peak, though. I mean, that's when you got to bring your A game.